Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In Podcast. Here this week to break down UFC Vegas 72. What was supposed to be last week's co-main event, now scheduled for 5 rounds here. We have top 10 bantamweights, actually the only ranked matchup, only ranked fighters on this entire card. We have Song Yadong taking on Ricky Simone. And in our co-main event, one of the middleweights' better prospects right now. We have Caio Borralho taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Couple fights falling off, couple cancellations. We got 11 total fights on the books, but as always, going to find the best fights and the best betting spots on the card to give out. So do us a quick favor, like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't before. Last week, UFC Vegas 71, main event ends in round 1. And, Pavlovich made a statement, cashed a little bet for us, but sadly, we did not. Slight loss, nothing big, just over a unit loss for us both, but looking to bounce back and get on one of those streaks again.
Yeah, this is obviously the worst type of way for either one of us to be wearing the casual cap. We'll take a look at your card first. Your first straight bet of the night, at least on this sheet right here, is Francis Marshall. You had 2 units on him at minus 200. Questionable decision, for sure close. I don't think that Marshall covered his price tag, but questionable decision to say the least. Dana Batjarel was on the way to winning that fight. Brady ended up finding the finish in the 3rd round. Another tough loss. Then you go down to your parlay, best play of the night probably. You had Lucindo to win at minus 350, and then the under 2.5 rounds of Blades Pavlovich. It didn't matter who was winning that fight. I don't think that was ever gonna not hit. Minus 140 for 1.5 units. You won over a little over a unit on that one. And then touching on the Pavlovich by TKO round 1, it was sitting at like 22-23% odds that happens. And that's Pavlovich's win condition, more or less. So I think that was an insane price. And then Rosa by decision at plus 170. Another, it was a tough loss. I'll talk about it in a sec, but I also had Rosa, and I thought that she did enough. I especially thought she did enough as a dog, so I was happy with the play. You ended up the night only minus 1.48 units. Definitely something that you can come back from. Not a big deal. Looking at my card, the streak came to an end. I only had 3 plays on this card. It was the Pavlovich by TKO round 1. Again, 23% is insane.
10% edge there.
Yeah, easy, right. That one, 2.5 units, and then I had the over 1.5 on Ronnie Yaya Montel Jackson. It was going exactly how I thought it would go, and I was counting down the minutes. I was like, okay, we got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, and of course Montel finds that shot. History was there. Yeah, it was just a matter of time before Yaya did not go to decision or hit that over 1.5. And I paid juice for it too, so that sucks. At minus 2.5 units there. And then my parlay, I guess it wasn't a bad play. Lucindo got her in mount. The fight doesn't go to the distance. I don't know. Lucindo got to the points that I thought that she would. I just thought that she'd find a finish there. And then we already touched on the Rosa to win. Both of those plays ended up missing. It was a long shot at plus 427. So that was minus a unit there. On the night, it was minus 1.03 units. We both had a minus 24% ROI on the night. In our main event at bantamweight, we have Song Yadong taking on Ricky Simone. Shout out to both these guys for taking the opportunity to step in short notice to headline this event. Switching up from a 3-rounder to a 5-rounder on a week's notice, there's a huge curveball into just breaking down this fight. Neither guy has gone a full 5 rounds, although we did see Song in a 5-round fight in his last bout with Corey Sandhagen before the doctor stepped in after the 4th round. And from what I could tell, he's 2-2 going into the 5th, and I liked that he still maintained some good pressure even in those championship rounds. That's what I want to see. Now for Ricky, like I said, never had the 5-round fight, but it's no question what his game plan is coming into this fight. Averaging over a little over 6.5 takedowns per fight. Absolute machine that will make his opponents work in every minute of their fight. Now, this being his first 5-rounder, I do have a few concerns for his game plan. First, it's an extremely taxing way to win fights the way that Ricky does with the constant wrestling pressure. It will take a toll on a gas take over 5 rounds. Especially if you have Song popping back to his feet every time that he gets taken down. And then I'm also concerned with Ricky's ability to switch up his attacks over 5 rounds without Song figuring him out. For Song, I think it's a given that his explosiveness to get back to the feet, especially early, is going to be there. Coming out of Team Alpha Male, only being 25 years old, I think we can expect massive jumps in his game from fight to fight, which is why I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, even though he has shown grappling holes in the past against guys like Stammen and Kyler Phillips. I think drawing out this fight will allow him to set up those bigger shots, like I said, later on in the fight. Another X factor for this fight is the damage done by each guy. I think it's safe to say the more powerful shots are coming from Song's side, which has definitely been awarded more by judges recently. Throw in the fact that this is the Kung Fu Kid coming out of China, and I just think that he'll be getting the nod in any type of close fight. I'm not sold 100%, but I definitely do think I could find myself on the Song side at plus money as this week goes on. And if more Ricky Love comes in and we see Song get up to like plus 115 or something, it'll be a no-brainer because I do kind of see this as a close to a 50-50 fight, although I would slightly lean Song just straight up.
Nice. I texted you last week when it was a co-main event, and I was like, I'd probably be a little bit more inclined to bet Ricky here if it was 5 rounds. And sure enough, a couple hours later, I get my wish here. Song's line seeing a little bit of love, though. It was plus 110 a little bit earlier in the week. Now plus 105. It's kind of going back up there. I kind of do get some of the Song love after breaking the fight down, and it's a lot of some reasons you said. The guy's had a 5-round experience before, but the overall strength of schedule that he has over Ricky Simón is through the roof. 25 years old at Team Alpha Male, been in the UFC since he was 19, 20 years old. It's massive improvements because he's fighting at the top level of one of the top divisions in the UFC as well. And coming off a back and forth fight with Sandhagen where 2 of the 3 judges did have that 2-2 going into the final round. Mm-hmm. It's a good look for Song, man. It really is. And I think while Ricky may hold an advantage on the mat when in terms of his wrestling, Song clearly holds the edge on the feet as well. I think he's going to hold a big speed edge with the hands, a big boxing edge, and most importantly, big power. And that is a little bit more of concerning after seeing Ricky take the shot from Uriah Faber and do the stanky leg. I promise you, Song hits way harder than that, and that is a bit of concern. It's his coach, man. They've game planned for this guy as well before. It is something to keep a note. I know everybody thought Blades was going to wrestle last week, but I don't think we're going to see a Ricky Blades out here on Saturday. I'm even more confident at that. I think we see Ricky absolutely come out here and wrestle. He always does. You talked about him over 6.5 takedowns over 15 minutes. I think that approach can possibly see that wear on Song's gas tank, especially now that he's adding 2 extra rounds to what he thought was a 3rd round fight. I just kind of bring up 3 fights. The one with Kyler Phillips. Phillips lands 3 takedowns on him, and that's someone that's shown us time and time again that he's a notorious gasser as well. And Song pretty much matches him and doesn't have the gas tank there. And the Cheeto Vera fight, it's 2 takedowns in round 3, half round of control time. Judges thought different. Thought Cheeto should have probably walked away with the win that night. But it's round 3 where Song didn't have that same get up to him anymore. In the Stamen fight, Song probably should have won that. There's a point deducted in round 1. But come round 3, there's no sense of urgency there. Stamen has 1 takedown and has over 4 minutes of control time. And that get up game is not there in round 3. So I know Sandhagen attempts 14 takedowns, but I really can't compare Cody Stamen or Corey Sandhagen's wrestling to Ricky. I think Ricky is much better All-American style wrestling. And if he's able to land some of those takedowns come round 3, 4, I expect this to get a little bit hairy. I'm excited for Ricky in his first 5 round here. The guy's got a gas tank for days. And there's a video of him out there running 30 miles for his 30th birthday. It's something I can really appreciate. So just to make it interesting, I'll side on the other side. I'm going to say Ricky Simón. That FanDuel's 4-5 decision prop is a little interesting for me, but Ricky Simón by decision plus 200 something's going to be how I side.
I don't hate your reasoning at all. You touched on the over 6.5 takedowns per fight again. That means that every single round he's having to get 2, and even when he is getting those takedowns, I know I have to go pretty far back in his career to make this argument. but he doesn't do much with him, you know? In the Ray Borg fight, he gets 7 takedowns and it's still a split decision. You go back to his Contender Series debut against Donovan Freelo, he gets 14 takedowns and it's still a split decision. Like, that's where my biggest concern is that Song is going to be able to pop back up and work and win over the judges. So that's why I like him at plus money. But I definitely understand that the wrestling has been his Achilles heel over the course of his career. So at 25 years old, it's really on Song to make a huge step here.
In our co-main event, we see Caio Borralho taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Borralho, probably seems to be like the mush parlay piece of the week, but I do kind of think for good reason. I think the UFC really, really likes this guy. You've seen since he's been signed, he's had 3 co-main event slots now, a spot on the Oliveira Makhachev card, 12-fight win streak. Man, the guy fights extremely, extremely smart. Good fight IQ. You see him bouncing in and out. He's a southpaw karate stance. He's hard to hit. He's got a really good gas tank. And what I really like the best is he's okay with being position over submission. He's more concerned with winning the fight than making it look good. And that does go a long way, man. I can't necessarily say the same thing for Michal Oleksiejczuk. I don't think he has the best fight IQ in the world. I think he wastes his gas tank pretty early in fights. And I don't think he's near as good on the mat. He does excel pretty early in fights, though. He has really good forward pressure, really good boxing. It's like he shot out of a cannon when the bell rings. 5 of his 6 UFC wins all come by first-round TKO. I talked about it, I think, not last week, 2 weeks ago with Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser excelled at heavyweight because he was that smaller heavyweight with the good footwork, the boxing, and a whole lot faster. That's how Michal Oleksiejczuk was at light heavyweight. He was just a faster, smaller guy with good hands. Now dropping down to light heavyweight, as he climbs the ranks, I don't necessarily see if those advantages are going to still be there for him. And when you see wins over Sam Alvey and Brundage at middleweight, it just doesn't really tell me too much when you're going to be fighting a guy like Caio. He might have to survive that early onslaught, that early storm, but I do think he's going to eventually find his way to get this guy down to the mat. I think he's going to submit him in rounds 2 or 3. Borralho, parlay piece for me this week. I think you feel pretty same Borralho on the side.
Yes, I don't know. I think it's a really good fight. I'm not sure if Borralho, after seeing his last fight, is going to cover a minus 350 price tag here, but I do think that he's the rightful side. After 3 straight decision wins, it is odd that the UFC is continuing to push him like this in the co-main event slot, but I do think that it's a decent matchup for him. Michal is a primary striker. Those first round finishes that he's coming off of in the middleweight division, it's what I want to see from his drop to middleweight,
and when you fight Sam Alvey.
Exactly. Usually you go to a split with Sam Alvey. He's at least able to get it done in the first round, which is nice if you're looking to take him. But you see that he struggled with the grapplers in the past, and the fact that Crute Noah's people were able to do it in the first round where he's still got all of his energy and get the finish, it's definitely concerning whenever he's fighting another grappler here in Borralho. Fighting out of Fighting Nerds in Brazil, but also getting some training in Las Vegas, Extreme Couture with Chris Curtis. He's averaging a little over 2 takedowns per fight, but he's not one-dimensional at all. You touched on, on the feet, he's got that very obvious karate stance, and he likes to throw those long strikes, uses his range well, and doesn't fear overextending on his shots because he almost welcomes the takedowns from his opponents. I'm pretty confident Borralho is going to get this fight to the mat. While it's there, I expect him to have a ton of success and even possibly find that first UFC submission. But it's concerning. You got to go 4 fights back from his Contender Series fight to find any of his submissions on his record, and you just don't see that sense of urgency when he is in these dominant positions, which it's really tough to try and take a submission prop at plus 120 right now. Like, there's just awful value, so I'm not sure how to attack this fight necessarily. If it stays on the feet, I think it becomes a whole lot closer. I still wouldn't favor Michal, but I just don't think that Michal will ever find his be comfortable enough to really start finding his rhythm on the feet with the threat of the takedown from Borralho. So yeah, I slightly edge Borralho. I think that if he does find success in the grappling, it's going to be first round. He's going to follow suit with OSP and with Jimmy Crute, and he'll get it early, as Oleksiejczuk can get caught off guard. But he does, for a guy who has a body that you wouldn't think has any cardio, Oleksiejczuk does have decent cardio when it goes later. Yeah, Borralho the side. I'm not sure how I'm going to play it, though. For my fight of the night, I went with some big old sloppy heavyweights, man. Martin Buday versus Jake Collier. Neither of these two guys are very good, but I do think that this matchup makes for an interesting fight. On one side, you have Jake, who's, in my opinion, the much more well-rounded MMA fighter. Throws a ton of volume, better footwork, and has the UFC level experience. But his biggest knock since moving up to heavyweight has been his size. Formerly a UFC middleweight, and you just look at his physique and you got to question if that's the best move for him. His initial move to heavyweight, it's tough to tell how his transition was going to be. They tried to kill him by throwing him in there with Tom Aspinall in his heavyweight debut. And then, kind of giving him a gift for accepting the Aspinall fight by giving him Gian Vellante, which he made easy work. Proving that, even in his newfound weight, he can still put up the volume of a middleweight, throwing 270 strikes and landing over 120. And even then, it was difficult to cap. The next fight, it's a split with Felipe, which I think that he lost that fight. I thought Felipe won that fight. Then he finishes Chase Sherman. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Loses a split to Arlovsky, and gets KO'd by none other than Huggy Bear himself, Chris Barnett. That is never something you want to see on a guy's record. His opponent, on the other hand, Martin Buday, could never be anything but a heavyweight. The 6'4" Slovakian made his name on the regional scene before getting a shot on the Contender Series. He's a barrel-chested brute of a man who does a great job of using that size and weight to his advantage in his fights. If you've seen any of his regional tape, he relies heavy on his ability to push his opponents up against the cage, eventually wearing on them with shots in the clinch and knees to slow his opponents down. It sucks to cap a fight, especially a men's MMA fight, almost entirely on size. But I'm not sure I can look at it any other way here. From what I've seen from Buday, he's got a solid chin and a refusal to veer away from that game plan, which is just to overwhelm his opponents. This is one of the few heavyweight fights that you see is over 2.5 rounds and juiced over 2.5 rounds. Like, it's weird, but I do think that the price is warranted. Obviously, that play would be a little bit scary coming off of that Chris Barnett KO loss from Collier. But I just don't see a lot of finishing upside from either guy. Buday has that big blockhead that, I figure can take shots from anybody and him still be okay. And I just don't see Buday getting the same type of finishes he was used to seeing on the regional scene since he took this step up in competition and has been fighting better guys. I think it'll be tough for the judges to look past the pressure of Buday up against the fence. I figure the strength will be evident in the clinch unless Jake has added some new tools to his game at heavyweight. I think the sheer size of Buday will be too much to overcome. So Buday's the side for me, but I do think that it'll be a fun fight to see heavyweights go for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to side at the same side of you as Martin Buday. The bookies just begging us to take a stab at this fight, basically leaving it at pick'ems all week. But at very low level, man. Both guys kind of liable to get their game plans going. But Buday, for me, is a guy that can push a higher pace for a lot longer than I think Collier is in the areas of the cage work, the clinching, and everything. And I think that's going to be big. Jake's shown us that he can stand there and box for 15 minutes in the fights with Felipe and Arlovsky and make them extremely close. But all the newfound weight that he's put on over the last couple of years, I think that's still a whole lot newer to him when it comes to fighting on the ground and fighting in the clinch. And, that's not new to Buday, who has an above-average gas tank for a heavyweight. So I think if Buday is really able to go back to the well like he did in the Contender Series, like he did against Chris Barnett, put him up against the cage, make him work, mixing some takedowns, mixing some knees to the body, I think we're going to see that slow Jake Collier down quite a bit. But then if he comes out here and shows up with a game plan like he did against Lucas Bresky last time out, right, Jake Collier is very liable to box the guy up for 15 minutes, double him up on strikes, land the better combinations. Buday still got the nod, I guess, landing the more powerful shots. It's too close of a fight, man. I'm not able to bet either side. It's going to be an easy pass for me, but I'm going to be on the same side, Martin Buday. For my fight of the night, taking Cody Durden versus Charles Johnson, taking the flyweights again this week. A bit of bad blood as well. Johnson took this fight like within a week after losing to O'Day Osborne, and these guys have been chirping back and forth online for a couple weeks now. For Cody Durden, or Cody Turden, as Charles Johnson likes to call him, found himself on the right side of 2 in a row now after losing to Mikhaev. On the feet, average, decent boxer, but a lot of it's really just enough to disguise those injuries, to mix in some of his wrestling, which is, by far his main weapon. I believe he's a state champion wrestler just a couple hours south of us in Georgia. I'm not sold on his ability to keep Charles down on the mat enough to win the minutes here. And I'm really not sold on the gas tank as well if he's having to work a whole bunch, man. I truly believe Charles Johnson's last performance was a one-off. I would be shocked if we see the guy gas the way he did against O'Day Osborne. I 100% accredit that to him, making that long flight over from Thailand, taking it on short notice. We're talking about a college track athlete here, someone who's been 5 rounds before in LFA and never once before shown the slightest inkling of slowing down. For me, I also think Charles Johnson's one of the better boxers in the division, man. His length, speed, technique, the volume, I think it's all enough to overwhelm Cody and win a ton of minutes on the feet here. A little MMA math here for you, because they've got some same opponents. They fought Carlos Mota. Johnson's finished him. Cody Durden did not. They both fought Mikhaev. Johnson went the distance with him. Durden's knocked out and choked out in the first round. Jimmy Flick, man, Charles Johnson finishes him in round 1. Durden gets flying triangled in round 1, It's one of those spots where, maybe when it opened at plus 170, there is a little bit of value on Cody Durden in this close flyweight fight. But I lean Charles Johnson here, man, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's able to find, a late finish on a sloppy entry or something from Durden. Charles Johnson, by the decision, going to be the pick here.
No, I think I'm on the same side with you. It's nice to see that the line is continuing to move down, so we don't have to pay as much juice on Charles Johnson. But I think you're right. It's difficult for Cody Durden to switch up his game plan over the course of the fight, and if Johnson can continue to work and doesn't gas like that last fight, yeah, he's going to give him some problems. For my fighter to watch, I ended up going with Juicy J, Julian Erosa. He's 33 years old. He's proven that he can hang with some legitimate talent, but he's now coming off his, sixth KO loss. It is really tough to cap this guy, because if he doesn't get starched early, he'll hang in there. He'll go the 3 rounds and take the hardest shots you could think of. But there is always the opportunity that his chin isn't on in a certain night, and I think that if it happens to him one more time, he'll find himself on the regional scene. And then from the UFC perspective, I personally think that the UFC is trying to push Mexican fighters right now. They're opening up the new UFC PI. Why do you give Fernando Padilla, did he even come off the Contender Series?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
No. Not even coming off the Contender Series, and he's getting a main event slot against somebody with chin issues. He's a Mexican striker. I favor the Mexican striker over the guy who's been knocked out 6 times any day. So, I don't know. It just seems like a spot where you've got to watch for Julian Erosa. This is kind of a do or die situation for him. And, with the public obviously trying to fade him, the Padilla opened plus 285, and he's been bet down to plus 130. I also personally wanted to try and find a way to play Padilla, but I was just too late getting to that line. I think Julian Erosa is definitely the more proven fighter and has all the tools to win this one, and probably, make it look easy even, as Padilla isn't really been tested, isn't proven at all. But there is the chance that this is a setup fight, and the UFC feels like this is a setup fight for Padilla. So Julian Erosa has to prove that he still has the chin to stay in the UFC. 10 losses on your record. You're kind of getting up there.
Yeah, and he struggled with long, lanky strikers like Caceres, like Choi, guys who put him out on the feet, and sure enough, get another tall, lanky striker, with a good chin. Man, for my fighter to watch this week, I'm going to take Brian Kelleher. Here I am again, sitting on, on all the opposite side of the public money for 3 weeks in a row. Kelleher was minus 200 something to start the week, and is now down to minus 135. And And that's the side I'm on here, man. The guy has 21 more professional fights than Journey. He has as many losses as Journey has professional fights. I mean, we're looking at the competition level, night and day difference from who Brian's fought. In his last two losses, Mario Bautista is a guy that is definitely teetering that top 15 of the bantamweight division right now. And Umar Nurmagomedov, young into his UFC career, but a lot of guys consider this guy a top 5 bantamweight on the roster right now. And I think those are the type of styles that Brian tends to have trouble with. Guys who are better grapplers than he is, guys who are bigger, stronger, and have that submission upside as well. And I don't see the same, the same threat and concerns out of Journey. Journey's not submitted a single guy with a winning record. And on the feet, yeah, Journey probably has a slight edge there, but it's nothing huge that makes me think he's going to go out here and sleep Brian Kelleher by no means. What's keeping me off? Brian's 36 years old. Again, 2 weeks in a row, I've been on the opposite side of the public money and been wrong about it. But if he comes out here and grapples like he did in the Pilarte fight, the Kroom fight, the last two fights I think he's arguably stood a chance in, I think he could look 70% in this fight here with Journey sporting this 43% takedown defense. I think there's a massive grappling upside for Brian Kelleher. For those many reasons, my fighter to watch this week.
Okay, so opposite side of you that you just talked about, my underdog of the fight is Journey Newson. I won't be playing Journey Newson. I think this card is filled with a bunch of trap lines, but I do think sitting at dog odds, he's a good one to look at. I have never been very high on Brian Kelleher. You look at his last two losses, and yes, they're against guys like Bautista and Nurmagomedov. He didn't look good in them, and I don't think that he would have ever beaten them at any point in his career. You look at the wins that he's been able to secure in the past 5 years since he's been 30, and it's guys that are no longer in the UFC. Kevin Kroom, Pilarte, Rodriguez, Hunter Azure. Yes, he beat O'Day Osborne, but it was a first round guillotine. I won't call it a fluke, but it seems a little bit fluky. Everything else is losses in between. Renan Barão is completely gone at 2018. Damian Stasic gone. Yuri Alcantara, didn't have a long UFC run. You get down to 2016 where he beats Julio Arce. I think that was his best win of his career. And, since then I've been less than impressed. He's shown up in spots where he needs to, and then definitely let everybody down in the spots where he could, show up and prove himself. With Journey Newson, I think that his striking's good enough to keep it on the feet. And, you talked about if Brian Kelleher is willing to use his grappling to win this fight, he has a good chance of winning it. I'm just not sold. I know he tried in his last two, but I think that's because he had no other option. For whatever reason, his fight IQ isn't there, and I think that he could get caught up in seeing Journey Newson not being a Mario Bautista, a Nurmagomedov. He's 10-4. He's 34 years old himself, and I think that he could fall into the trap that thinking that he's just a better MMA fighter. So if Journey keeps this on the feet, I think Journey has the edge in standing. And Brian Kelleher, unless he's getting you in a guillotine, unless you're shooting on him, I don't see a ton of ways that he can get this fight to the ground with just pure wrestling. I'm on the Journey Newson side, but strictly because it's plus money, not necessarily because I think he has a distinct advantage over Brian Kelleher here.
Yeah, my underdog this week as well. Probably not going to see me get to the well on him as well. I'm going to go with Waldo Cortez Acosta, sitting at plus 145, plus 150. I just think the line should be a little bit closer. You got low-level heavyweights. A lot of times basically going to be a coin flip. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting the younger, much bigger, more athletic, guy who's developing in his game at this point, the far superior gas tank, all at a pretty good plus money price tag. So to me, that's where the value lies in this fight. I'm not counting out, Lima. The guy has plenty of ways to win this fight. The dude's extremely powerful, has one of the more nastier leg kicks of anybody in the UFC, and potentially a big wrestling upside. But I can't lay chalk on a guy who's notorious for slowing down, And so the line to me here seems just like it's slightly off. Waldo Cortez Acosta, slight underdog this week.
For my prop of the week, I'm taking Martin Buday by decision plus 350.
All right.
Like I said, I think that the over 2.5 being juiced is warranted. I think both these guys, there's not a lot of finishing upside. Of course, Collier coming off that knockout loss is a little concerning, but I just don't think Buday has he has the size, but he doesn't have the finishing power. He's more than happy to just win minutes by controlling you up against the cage. And Collier also kind of known for going the distance. I think that Martin Buday, it's going to be difficult for any judge to score around for Collier, who's just being overwhelmed by such a bigger guy in Martin Buday. And I think that he's going to edge out the decision. So, taking a pick'em fight to a plus 350, I think that's the way to play this fight. So I got Buday by decision plus 350 as my prop for this week.
I think that's an incredible price tag for a fight that's lined like that to go the distance. Right. Prop for me, I'm taking Stephanie Egger versus Oleksiejczuk under 2.5, plus 120, plus 130, what it's sitting at right now, going back to the well with the women's under. I think Stephanie Egger is going to finish this girl inside the distance. There just was not a very much difference in price tag here between Egger inside the distance and the under 2.5. So don't want to get greedy when it's already plus money here. 5 of Stephanie Egger's last 6 have hit the under 2.5. None of them even seeing the third round to make you sweat. She's a very dangerous grappler, man. Nasty judo, good submissions herself. And she's been armbarred from guard a couple times to let you know that maybe other girls do have an opportunity to close the show as well. And she's also very, very big for this weight class and won't have any problem matching the size of Oleksiejczuk, who, to be honest, man, when you watch her 4 or 5 fights she has on the regional scene, she just bullies these girls because she is much bigger than they are. And when you watch her fight in Bellator, the other 4 regional scene fights, it's less than impressive, man. She just swings big overhand rights. She's stronger than these girls on the mat, but the skills are not there. I think she's liable to get stopped on the feet, liable to get stopped on the mat by Stephanie Egger, and so I think Stephanie finds a takedown very quickly with these. I got her by first or second round submission, cash just under 2.5 at plus 120.
For my best bet of the card, it's an odd one because I would never make this my best bet any other card, right? But Charles Johnson, especially as this line keeps climbing down, I have never been impressed with Durden, and I just feel like Charles Johnson has the wrestling defense to continue to work his way back up to the feet and make Durden work. And we've seen Durden's workload tail off, especially in the third round. And I think that's where Charles Johnson could shine in this fight. I've heard a couple of places Charles Johnson third round finish, but I just think that he's able to do enough midway through that second round to win 2 of the 3 rounds on the judges' scorecards and cover his price tag. I'm honestly not even sure that Durden's going to have success in the first round, man. I really don't put him on the same level of Mikhaev or even close. And Charles Johnson was able to make Mikhaev work tirelessly in over 3 rounds. I think Durden will get wiped out, and we'll see a possible finish from Johnson, which would make this a whole lot less of a sweat. But I do think that he's also going to edge out in volume and just overall work and damage as well.
Yeah, man, I've been to the well a couple times with Charles Johnson, with Zalgas, O'Day against Flick, and might get back there this weekend as well. My best bet, it is the only bet I have locked in right now. I'm going to take Borralho parlayed with Stephanie Egger, minus 122. I got 1.5 units there to win just a little over a unit. It is my most 2 confident legs of the parlay, and I think both of these people have tremendous grappling upside. I think Caio might have to withstand that early storm, but he's going to get this fight to the mat where he's the far superior submission grappler. Mm-hmm. And Egger, I think this Oleksiejczuk girl, I don't know, why Bellator didn't re-sign her. I don't necessarily think she's that good of a prospect whatsoever, and I think Stephanie Egger's going to make pretty quick work over on the mat. Borralho, Egger, parlay this weekend.
Moving on to the quick pick section of the card, we start off the night in the women's bantamweight division where we see Haley Cowan making her UFC debut against another debutante, Jamie Lynn Horth. It seems like the UFC's really would like for Haley Cowan to win, but they're matching her up against somebody who I think is decent. I wanted to play her, but now that she's sitting at like minus 140, it's really tough to get behind laying juice on a debuting women's fighter. I think Horth has shown enough in her previous fights that she should be the favorite here, though.
Yeah, third time's a charm for Haley Cowan. She's not able to make the debut yet. Yeah, I think the UFC tried to give her a winnable fight, a girl coming up a weight class, kind of off a layoff or something, but I think it might have been a mistake. I think Jamie Lynn Horth is the far superior fighter. That's going to be the side I'm on as well. Moving on up, men's 135, Brian Kelleher, Journey Newsom. Disagreement on the night here. I'm going to side with Brian Kelleher. Might get to the window before Saturday.
It's annoying that this is like a disagreement. I'm not even sure if Newsom is the side that I'm going to pick. I'll pick him. I'll pick Journey Newsom for the hell of it. Staying in the same weight class, but the women's division. Stephanie Egger taking on Irene Oleksiejczuk. I've got Egger as well for all the reasons that you mentioned previously.
Yeah, big on Egger to stop this girl by submission early in the fight. Cody Durden taking on Charles Johnson. My fight of the night here. One I think could be much higher up on this card. I think it's going to be a good one. Got Charles Johnson by decision.
Yeah, I'm also on Charles Johnson. And then moving up to heavyweight, we've got Martin Buday versus Jake Collier. I think Buday's the side. It sucks that his biggest advantage is his size. But if you can find some props to play this, Buday by decision, I think that there's plenty of value there for this, kind of an apple pie shitter of a fight.
Yeah, that honestly, man, that line's incredible. It's something that you might see on my card. The fight goes to the decision 75-80% of the time, and that's the side I'm on majority of times as well. So I like Martin Buday by decision. Josh Quinlan taking on Trey Waters. Waters stepping in here on short notice. 6'5" welterweight who's having to recut weight after just fighting like last weekend, the weekend before. I don't think the guy is that good. Josh Quinlan might not be that good either, but I do think Josh Quinlan has the power to put Trey Waters away. I got Josh Quinlan inside the distance.
I am gonna disagree. I have Trey Waters. I don't know. Not a real breakdown at all, but I'll take Trey Waters here. I think it's a really close fight. I wouldn't trust Quinlan at favorite odds against anybody really. You go up to heavyweight where you see Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I've got de Lima here. I think he gets it done inside the distance. I think Acosta's there to be hit, and de Lima hits hard. So I'm going to go with de Lima here to give Acosta his first loss of his career.
I think that's probably the side I'm going to be on is de Lima as well. Waldo's the dog because I just think the line's off. I'm not laying the juice on Rogerio de Lima at this point in his career. But a fight I'm not really too interested in, to be honest. Julian Erosa taking on Fernando Padilla. A fight that it really could be one of our fight of the nights. I think Juice J's always in a good fight, and they're giving him a guy who's more than content to strike with him and can match him for that size as well. Julian Erosa is going to be the pick. Make it spicy. 3rd round submission.
I'm on the Padilla side here. I couldn't get to him money line wise, as it's just continued to go down, and I just feel like I've lost 100 points of value, and it's tough to get behind that. But I do think that he's going to be able to stand and bang with Julian Erosa, give him the fight that he wants, and if he can catch him early, I'll give Padilla the side. I think the UFC's pushing him. We move up to the middleweight division. Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira has been like my most profitable fade ever. I am going to go with Rodolfo Vieira here, though. I just think that he gets that first round sub. I think that after his last few performances, I hope that he's not thinking that he could make a run by sticking behind his jab. I think he should just go to what got him to the show and just go all out for that first round submission. We've seen Cody Brundage fall victim to it before, so Vieira first round sub.
Yeah, if you gas, so be it, man. Stick to your bread and butter, go out there and try to get the takedown. You made a good point we were talking about earlier. Everybody playing the under 1.5 here could get burnt if these guys do decide to strike and Brundage play it safe after coming off some finished losses. But why not just take Vieira in round 1, because he's definitely, the clearer upside early on, and you're getting a much better price tag. So I'm going to go Rodolfo Vieira as well. Moving on, co-main event, staying at the men's middleweight division. Caio Borralho taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. I got Caio Borralho by submission.
I've got Caio Borralho. I think he... if he should get it by submission if he wants to get a co-main event slot anymore, but I think that he's just going to win a decision like he has been. And then moving on to the main event, Song Yadong taking on Ricky Simone. I'm on the Song side. I might actually get to a bet to it later on in the week.
Make it interesting, and I'll split hairs with you here. I'm going to take Ricky Simone in our main event slot. I like the wrestling. I like anybody that can go out there and run 30 miles on their 30th birthday. That's a gas tank that I can back. Don't know if I end up getting to the well, though, like you might. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Total of 11 fights. Not the best fight card, but it is those ones that we always talk badly about, that always produce the fireworks and all the finishes. So make sure you watch it on Saturday, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.